Shortly after the 1980 elections that saw the UPC under Dr. Milton Obote return to power, the leader of UPM, Yoweri Kaguta, who had participated in the 1980 presidential elections and failed to raise more than 1%, claimed that the UPC had rigged elections and decided to pick guns, fled to the jungles of Bugwere to fight the UPC government.
What else can we do if you have got a government which has closed off all other channels of peaceful change? What else could we do except to surrender, to resign ourselves to slavery? And we couldn't do that as long as the people were willing. Because this is their own war. The people are actually the ones who urged us on to fight. If we do not have this support, we would never have started such a war. So it is to the people's benefit themselves. And the fact that they have been able to bear this suffering that you have seen is a testimony to the fact that this is their own war. These people are just using us. We are the instruments. If we had not started the war, we would have been declared traitors. We studied the dynamics of the situation. We knew that although we had 27 armed people, that we represented millions of potential soldiers. These thousands here, they were all civilians, all peasants. Many of them were peasants. So although the 27 armed people were a small number, they represented a huge force of potential soldiers. And we knew that with the correct tactics, we could enable the 27 to mobilize the millions who were on our side, but were not properly organized. But also have been organizing among other strata, like for instance the intellectuals from the towns, and also in the working class, and also the big businessmen. We also mobilize among them, as you can see, people of our external committee. Many of them are middle class people. So we educate everybody who's willing to work with.
Shortly, Obote sounded a warning to Yoweri Museveni, whom they thought had jokingly fled with young men to the bush with no big strategy.
When I leave it to my own countrymen and women, if they want a difficult time, they will support these lawless elements. If they want stability, if they want rehabilitation, if they want peace, if they want prosperity, I call upon them not to support such persons, but to report them immediately so that the security forces can deal with them and deal with them quickly.
The most suffering Ugandans were the children who had suffered from malnutrition and the elderly. Starvation had become a problem in Uganda. While the UNLA was willing to crush the NRA guerrilla fighters, the situation in the hospitals was sympathetic. Healthy workers had been overwhelmed with the incoming patients. Inside the jungles of Bugwere were the NRA rebels doing their morning parades.
They see themselves as national state.
Museveni kept the courage besides all the intimidations. The NRA political wing consisted of an intellectual class and businessmen who did external propaganda and mobilizing of resources. The military wing, led by Yoweri Museveni, was onto a task of inflicting pain onto the enemy in the jungles of Bugwere. On either sides, lives were lost. For effective camouflage, the NRA rebels kept stripping naked the dead government soldiers and putting on their uniforms, while lack of ammunition remained a major challenge on both sides. Many of the NRA rebels joined the troop because they had no option, but they had been left orphans after their parents had been killed by the government.
olunaku olwo basooka ne baseeringa ne bwe baayingira ne bajja abaana enti abamu ne badduka ne bakwata maama wange ne bamutta n'ente ne bazitwala ne ssente ne bazitwala ne waba omulaalo gwe baali basise omulaalo waffe bwe yajja n'agamba maama wamu bamusonyiwa ne bagamba gweddayo omulaalo najja n'atulagirira maama waffe gy'afiiridde ne tujja ne tumuziika ne taata.
The NRA gained momentum at a very fast rate, and this overwhelmed the government. In what sounded to be a brain game, also the NRA displayed skulls accusing government to have killed many people. Amidst the Luel Bush War in 1985, General Tito Okello overthrew Obote's regime in a military coup, while in the Luel Triangle, the NRA rebels continued to fight.
The new head of state, Major General Tito Okello, seated here on the left was a man he hosted, Dr. Obote, was a close ally of the former president for many years. It was Okello who helped to overthrow Idi Amin and restore Obote to power. But today he was calling Obote a dictator as he took his place as head of state.
Attempts to hold peace talks in Nairobi were arrived at the end of a war that was attended by all warring parties but overshadowed by mistrust on either sides.
We are hopeful that the brotherly spirit that is being portrayed by Ugandans sitting round the table will result in a full resolution of this issue. These groups with whom we have already reached some understanding are in Uganda. They have put down their arms and they are cooperating fully and participating fully in the process of bringing about lasting peace in our country. The head of state and the chairman of the military council, General Tito Okello, has time and time again stated that all Ugandans are welcome back home.
Broadly speaking, the difference is on whether we are going to hold fellows who committed crimes in the past accountable for their crimes, or whether we should condone these crimes. I think that's why the other side is scared of some of these points. Scared of an agreement. All out war. What's the difference between what's happening now and all out war? It's now all out war. You see, all these things depend mainly on intentions and partly on mechanisms provided for.
The UNLA and NRA agreed to cease fire and the peace talk accord was signed. However, the NRA defied the agreements. The NRA took over government on January 26, 1986. Museveni was sworn in on January 29, 1986, and for that case, a public holiday is always stationed on 27th January 1986 to remember their liberation. Kindly subscribe to Bugwere Live Updates TV. We always offer the best.
Smoke from a grenade rises. Two government soldiers have stumbled into the ambush by accident. travelling along a track off the main road. The Ugandan government has always said that much of the evidence of fighting is fabricated. There's nothing fake about this man's friendship. Papers show that one of the soldiers had been given a day's leave to visit his sick child. The officer in charge explains that the two men had arrived while they were waiting for the convoy. He said they had to be killed because they might